Good evening and welcome everybody to our, can you hear me? Okay. Good evening and welcome to our public meeting. I believe we have a motion.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to make a motion to, in the absence of the mayor who is on leave and the deputy mayor who is traveling right now, probably in the air as we speak, to ask Councillor Stoyles to chair today's meeting and have that placed in the record. And we'll have a seconder there.
Moved second by Councillor Tessier.
And we need a motion.
Question. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. All right. A motion to adopt the agenda. So moved by Councillor Ludwell. Second by Councillor Aker. Any? All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. The minutes from the meeting of November the 3rd. I'm mover. We moved the minutes first, don't we? And then
Yes, but for accuracy.
Yeah. Errors and omissions.
Nothing.
Okay. All right. Moved by Councillor Ludwell, seconded by Councillor Tessier. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. All right. We did the errors and omissions. So now we're going to move on to the safety message. Business arising, yes. Business arising from the minutes of November 3rd.
Probably nothing.
I'm anxious to hear the safety message.
That's right.
That's what it is.
We're moving forward. The safety message, Councillor Aker.
Thank you for your patience, Your Worship, and fellow members of Council. I was reading through the kit last night, and I sent the CAO a text. I said, I guess I'm doing the safety message. What have we got? And I was going to talk about, maybe from a safety point of view, the dig that we're doing over there and the repair work on Commonwealth Avenue. But I think we'd already talked in committee about the new move-over law, which came into effect in March 2014. I don't know if you do a lot of travel within the city and outside, but I don't really think that everybody is in line now with the new regulations. But just in case, I thought we'd review this here today. And we're talking about basically you should move over for certain designated vehicles. And the law came in, like I said, back in March, and it's designed to protect those who drive emergency and other designated vehicles, and it requires all drivers to slow down and move over to provide some space when approaching a designated vehicle, which, by the way, includes a municipal enforcement officer here in Mount Pearl and other municipalities. It also includes police, fire, ambulance, search and rescue. And some people don't realize tow trucks and road assistance vehicles as well, along with our municipal enforcement officers, as well as any public utility vehicle and or a service vehicle. So I would assume too, Director Antle, that if a public works vehicle or even a community services vehicle was pulled over dealing with some emergency, that we should all slow down and give way. This pamphlet here from the provincial government, I believe, from Service NL, indicates that you should make your best. So if there's a vehicle pulled over on a 2-lane highway, you should try to move over as far to the left to stand or to give them as much ground as possible. And if that is impossible, what you should try to do basically is either slow down or speed up. And I don't think people really get that part. You can speed up to avoid causing contact or coming too close to a vehicle that's pulled over. So slow down, move over, and what we're trying to do is protect those people who are operating in those designated vehicles, as well as the people that are also have been pulled over for whatever reason. They could be in distress, or they may have simply broken the law. And lastly, you may be protecting yourself too at the same time. So that's the safety message today from the City of Mount Pearl. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Council for the regular agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Aker. That was a good message, and it's always good to have safety in mind when you're on the highway. And my safety message on the highway is always about moose, and every time anyone leaves the home, about safety with moose. And we had a family in Mount Pearl was hit by a moose just a week ago and in hospital in intensive care. So, yeah, it's always good to be safe on the highway.
Point of order here.
Yes.
I wonder, we have some people in the gallery who are here probably just for one item only. I'm just wondering if we could perhaps deal with the planning items first and then move on to the rest of the...
With
if everybody's okay with that?
Council, if we can do that?
Just change the order slightly.
Okay. Well, if you want.
Yeah, that way you can leave. That's why
If you want to
I'm
do
just
that,
trying to be
all right.
considerate here. If you want to, yeah. If you want to stick through this, it's punishment. Okay, so...
Councillor Walsh, we had one item under correspondence. Can we do that first?
Deal with that first, sure.
I'd like to deal with that first, and then there's only the other items. So we have one item under correspondence, and it's from the Government of Newfoundland Labrador Office of Climate Change, and they sent us some information on all the stuff they've done with climate change, and they have a new website and everything, and there's 70 locations within the province, and the letter was there for information only. I'm wondering if anybody wanted to speak to us. Okay, that's only for information only. Okay, now Councillor Walsh, you can have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things that I want to say before I get into the report. The first thing I'd like to do would be to deal with the Glendale Avenue amendments first, because it's not first on our agenda there, and it's probably the one item that is going to attract the greatest amount of attention in terms of not only the gallery, but I think general interest this evening. A couple of observations that I'd like to begin with. First of all, Madam Chair, the report itself, I have the documentation, which is pretty considerable. I don't think that in my 15 years on council, that I've had more consultation or more information or more research or more data or more input into anything than we have for this particular proposed amendment. So I just wanted to make that point. And further to that, as a part of the proposal that was put forward by the proponents, they undertook a land use impact assessment that was done by LAT 49, and that included 4 different major components. One of them was a submission by the architects. Another was a submission by Harborside Transportation Consultants. Another was by Services Ltd. And another was by the Altus Group. And the project team, I might add, also included Track Consulting, DNBA Consulting, as well as Crosby Engineering. In addition to that, we did an analysis of the existing infrastructure, and that was carried out by SNC Lavalin. We did a height and viewscape study, which was conducted by Fougere Mentionton and All North Hocko King Renouf. We did a value impact and analysis study, which is carried out independently by Kirkland Balsam Associates, with assistance by Keith Bradbury, who was an independent and very well recognized real estate appraisal. In total, Madam Chair, we had a total of 12 different private consulting and technical firms produce reports and feedback on this, and I just wanted to note that from the beginning. The second thing that I want to note is this. What we're discussing and proposing to put forth in the form of an amendment, which I will be doing shortly, is not a motion, rather, for the overall approval of this development, but it is a motion on the 2 amendments that are required to bring this to the next stage of public consultation, which will be a commission hearing. And we have a date set for that if this motion is approved by council. So to that end, let me get to this report. Obviously, we are in receipt of 2 amendments, 2010 Amendment number 15, 2015, and amendment to our Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010, Amendment number 48, 2015. The applicant is requesting that the property be redesignated from rural and general commercial under our municipal plan to residential, and rezoned from rural, commercial, general, and residential to medium density to residential high density to accommodate the 3 to 4 story 60-unit condominium apartment complex. Now again, this is the only proposal that we're dealing with. This is the only proposal that we have in front of us right now. And whether this proposal is eventually approved or not, what we're doing is approving the amendment if we vote to approve this, so that we can proceed to the next stage of the development process. In terms of our municipal plan, the applicant is proposing that the land in the rural and general commercial land use designation be redesignated to residential if the amendment is approved by council. In terms of our Municipal Development Regulations 2010, the applicant is proposing that land in the rural CG and RMD, which is residential medium density zones, be rezoned to residential high density if the amendment is approved by Council. We did undertake a land use impact study, and due to the nature of the proposal and to further provide sufficient public information on this proposal, a land use impact assessment was required by the developer and by Council. The LUIA associated with the project was referenced in the public notices and were circulated and posted in the Telegram in accordance with our regular consultation procedures. The LUIA has been available on the city's website, Madam Chair, since June 10th, 2015, which is quite a while ago. A notice of motion to rezone this property was made at a public council meeting on March 10th. That's quite a while ago, 2015. And the LUIA associated with the project has been available on the city's website since June 10th, 2015. An ad was prepared in the Telegram and posted on June 20th, 2015, advertising a briefing session which did take place on July 7th, 2015. The notice was circulated to 121 property owners located within 150 meters of the property and the surrounding property. 4 written representations were received by the deadline, and therefore the public consultation proceeded as was scheduled. I want to note as well, in terms of the public notification, that this is the normal procedure, that we carried out exactly the procedure that we would for public notification for any development application. In terms of the briefing session, a total of 32 people attended the briefing session, so there was plenty of opportunity for people to speak, have input, listen to the proposed development, listen to the concerns of residents and the public in general. And this briefing session, due to the large volume of documents, a copy has been provided to Council electronically, and a hard copy, which I have here, has been tabled at the public council meeting, and a copy is available to the public upon request to the Office of the Director of Planning and Development if anyone would like to have a copy of this. There were a number of things that were mentioned in the public consultation, and I want to highlight them very briefly. I'm not going to get into the detail of these. The building height, in terms of loss of privacy and the impact that it may have on the neighborhood, that was one concern that was raised. Some of the residents raised questions or concerns about traffic and volumes of traffic and the impact that traffic might have on the proposed development. They talked a little bit about property values and the impact that this or any other development, I suppose for that matter, might have on their property values. Servicing, water and sewer and storm management. I've said repeatedly, and I'll repeat it once again, we would never vote to propose or approve an amendment or a development in our city unless we have adequate water and sewer and stormwater management systems in place, and that is clearly the case here. The public consultation and decision making, there was some questions raised about how that was done, and of course we did explain how the process works and what we normally do. And some of the other concerns that were raised were about market viability to support condominium development. It's really not our concern. That's the concern of the developers and the people who sell these condominiums. Potential abandonment of development in the middle of a construction, lighting of building and the dispersing of lighting, and potential increase in rodents as a result of disturbance of land during any construction period. All of these are obviously potentially issues with any proposed development, but they're not particularly sensitive or germane to this particular proposed development. On the 4 items, the main 4 items, Your Worship, in summary, the consultant noted on building height, it is our opinion that the distance between the proposed Glendale Gardens condominium building and the residential neighborhood of Commonwealth Gardens subdivision provides ample separation of the 2 areas, resulting in minimal privacy or view impact. They go on to say, the above distance, coupled with the survey data of the report, which illustrates that the buffer between the proposed Glendale Garden condominium building and the residential neighborhood of Commonwealth Gardens is reasonably populated with mature trees, thus providing privacy between the 2 areas, mitigating any view impacts between the 2 areas. For me, Your Worship, and I speak now only for me, the impact of a 4-story building in the valley like this is minimal anyway. I mean, nobody could expect or should expect to build in a city and not potentially have something developed in abutting areas. What's Mount Pearl going to look like in 20, 40, or 50 years? Nobody knows, but I can tell you this. It's not going to look exactly as it is today. There's going to be development, and given the restriction of boundaries, probably much of that development, in all likelihood, is going to be development upward. So this will have minimum impact. In terms of the impact on market values, Keith Bradbury advised, and I quote, he believed that there would be no negative impact on property values to the Commonwealth Gardens subdivision as a result of the proposed development. And Kirkland Balsam and Associates concluded there should be no negative effect on property values or on market values in the Commonwealth Gardens subdivision if this proposed development is constructed. In terms of the traffic study, Harborside consultants were, I think they undertook the initial traffic study, and their conclusions were reviewed by our IPW department, and we came to the conclusion that there would be no appreciable impact whatsoever on this development if this development were to proceed as proposed. Servicing, SNC Lavalin concluded that development could be added without any major adverse reactions. However, if it is our recommendation that the existing infrastructure be updated before adding the developments on 16 to 24 Glendale, and an alternative connecting to the sanitary sewer located on Glendale Avenue will be to connect to the trunk sewer, which would alleviate the need for upgrading existing infrastructure and avoid placing additional stress on the existing infrastructure. In general, direct service connections to trunk sewers are not common, and we all know that. However, if the city has no objections to the connection, it will be an acceptable and probably fairly appropriate alternative to this development. This was reviewed by the province and forwarded to the province, as we always do. The Planning and Development Committee had a look at this. We support moving forward with this and the appointment of a commissioner. So I'm going to get to the motion now, Your Worship, and ask for council support of this. The Planning and Development Committee recommends, pursuant to the Urban and Rural Planning Act, that 1. The Mount Pearl Municipal Plan 2010, Amendment Number 15, 2015, and the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010, Amendment Number 48, 2015, related to 16 to 24 Glendale Avenue Amendment, be adopted by Council, and the amendment documents be tabled for Council, which I am now doing. Also, that Stan Clinton be appointed as Commissioner. And thirdly, that the public hearing regarding the amendment be scheduled for Thursday, December 10th, 2015, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Walsh, second by Councillor Ludwell. Any discussions?
I have some comments.
All right, Councillor Aker first.
No, I just want to make one comment. I do support the project. I think it's a good project. I think all of the issues have been brought forward in the public engagement process, which don't happen at kitchen tables. They happen through the open houses. They happen as well through the briefing sessions we have. And that process, Councillor Walsh, is not over yet. So what we're moving here today is the appointment of Stan Clinton to become the commissioner, to have the hearing. If anybody still has concerns with this development, basically we invite them all to come out. My question on that issue is, what will be the process now for advising this, the members of the public, I guess. I guess those people who live close by will be notified. It'll be advertised in the paper. There should be, if this is December, going forward December 10th, it should be around 2 weeks' notice to get everybody. Will we also do a mail out to some of the concerned residents who have a vested interest in this and we've been engaging along with
Councillor
so far?
I'm going to refer to the city planner, but it's the same as we do with any other development in the city. But
thank you, Your Worship. The process from here, Council approves this amendment. Tomorrow morning we will be sending emails, probably starting off to those people that have been involved in the process, and as Councillor Walsh has indicated, there's been a number of them that have been submitted a number of email representations. So that'll be done tomorrow to advise them of Council's decision and the intention of the public hearing, the Commissioner, the date and location. Same time this Saturday, it's our intention to put a notice in the paper, start the first 2 weeks, as you pointed out, Councillor Aker. Put it in our, put it in the newspaper, put it on the website, and then mail to our normal distribution group, which is 150 meters in the area surrounding the area that's the subject amendment. We may actually extend that beyond a bit more, because I believe there might be a few people in the Commonwealth Gardens area that were part of the consultation. We'll probably try to collect them as well.
Thank you.
If I could just add, I'm sorry,
Well,
in case there are other questions.
Well, I was going to let you close debate, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to mention that I'm seconding this motion today, of course, because there, as we all know, there is a need for housing in our city and in our region, specifically for seniors. So, you know, this type of development, I think, is going to come up more and more. You know, Councillor Walsh spoke of the way Mount Pearl might look in 20 or 25 or 30 years. And I honestly believe that we're going to see more of these developments as time goes on, and certainly, you know, we need to be prepared to be able to accommodate them. The other thing I will say, of course, is as these developments come up, you know, we need to be able to sort of manage and work with the neighborhoods to manage the impact on the neighborhoods. But, you know, at this point, with all of the detailed consultation, study, and review that Councillor Walsh has mentioned, I'm certainly satisfied that this project is prepared to go to the next stage of this public consultation process. You know, a 280-odd page report, 12 private consultants. We've looked at this from every angle, and certainly I think it's a project that is very worthy of moving on to the next step in the process.
Councillor Walsh, you want to close debate? I already asked.
Okay, just a couple of things. Further to Director Yefchek's comments, I did talk to Director Yefchek yesterday, I think, and did ask to ensure that all the people who made submissions, raised any concerns, email, telephone, that they be contacted, as Councillor Aker also suggested and asked. So I think it's really important that we respond to these people and let them know all of the detailed information that we have at our disposal. We've been very clear and very transparent and very upfront with all of the information. The information has been posted on our website. It's been available for public scrutiny. Some of the reports have been for months, literally 5 and 6 months old, and have been on our website. Some of the other more recent reports have only been there for 2 or 3 weeks, but they have been provided to people to review and have a look at. The only other thing that I want to comment on before we put the question to Council is this. Sometimes people say, you know, when councils make amendments to zoning, or when councils make changes to the regulations, it impacts me as a property owner. I might not have bought in that particular location had I known that a proposed change would happen. To that, I simply say that these kinds of changes happen all the time. Brookfield Plains, for example, was once zoned just a couple of years ago as agricultural land. Anyone who built anywhere on Brookfield Road or on Commonwealth Avenue or anywhere in that area would have recognized, probably in all likelihood, that for literally hundreds of years, Brookfield Plains was designated as agricultural land. But you know what? A development application was submitted to the City of St. John's. They reviewed it. They went through the review process, and they rezoned it so that a residential housing development in excess of 500 houses, in fact, could be built on that land. In my 15 years on council, I've been part of many, many changes to our development regulations, to our municipal plan, rezoning. We're going through the same process as Councillor Ledwell said. You know, we do this to ensure that we mitigate any negative impacts on residents. We want to do that to the very extent that we possibly can. But at the same time, we have to move forward with the development, and progress is really, really important in our city. There is a need for housing. There's a need for this kind of housing. There's a need for affordable housing. There's a need for a great deal more than what is proposed here. Again, we're only voting today on the amendment to bring it to the next level of public consultation. But having said that, we all know that generally the proposal that we're dealing with is a good proposal. At least it's, otherwise I don't think I would be supporting it, and I doubt if other members of council would be supporting it either. So with those comments, Madam Chair, I'd ask for the question to be called and a vote taken.
Call for the question. All in favour?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, just for the record, it might be good to just ask if there are any contrary minds.
Any contrary minds? All?
Nothing.
No. Okay. Unanimously. All right, we're going to continue with planning. Councillor Walsh?
All right.
It's almost
I'm not finished
carry
yet,
on with that.
but
You're
you
not
can
finished
leave
yet?
if you want to. Okay, I need to get to another screen. Okay, here we are. This is on behalf of Marley Construction, and this relates to Phase 5 of the Moffat Road subdivision development application. We have an application to proceed with Phase 5 of Moffat Road, and this takes in an area of approximately 8.26 acres of land, and they're proposing to build 39 single dwellings on this piece of property. As you know, the Mount Pearl Municipal Plan CDS has been developed for some time and included a phased approach to development of Moffat Road and surrounding areas. This is in compliance with our City of Mount Pearl development regulations. We have made referrals to Newfoundland Power, St. John's Regional Fire Department, Canada Post. It has been reviewed by our engineering and our inspection services, as well as our finance departments and others. We went through basically the regular process of consultation and review by various departments, both internally and externally. And with all of that in mind, of course, subject to the conditions and approval and compliance with all of the regulations cited, I make the following recommendation: that the Planning and Development Committee recommends that the subdivision application by Newfoundland Design Associates Limited on behalf of Marley Construction, proposing to develop Phase 5 of Pearlview West Moffat Road subdivision, including the development of 39 single dwelling lots and associated open space, be approved, and that a development permit be issued subject to the following conditions as outlined in the technical report, and these are specified for Council's review, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Walsh, second by Councillor Ludwell. Any discussions? No discussions. I ask for the question. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The second is related to naming of some streets in phases 4 and 5. Mr. Yevchek has advised that in keeping with the subdivision's maritime history theme, of which we're fairly familiar, and that is the wrecking of the USS Pollux and the Truxton at Chambers Cove quite a number of years ago, we developed a naming theme throughout that subdivision, and we're proposing as part of the continuation of that the two streets that are left to be named, one, Brent Drive, and this would be named after the USS Brent, which was a minesweeper that provided rescue parties and medical assistance in the rescue of the Pollux and Truxton, and we feel that this would be very, very appropriate. And secondly, Chambers Cove Avenue, which would be named after Chambers Cove itself, which is the site where the USS Truxton ran aground in 1942. This would complete the naming of the streets up to Phase 5, and we put forth this recommendation for the approval of Council, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Walsh, second by Councillor Ludwell. Any discussions? I'm assuming I'm assuming that the fire department has approved all these, and there's no conflict.
It's subject to the approval always. They have already approved. All right, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Question. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried.
The last thing for me, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the indulgence of Council for allowing the planning report to be moved up front. Simply the building construction permits for residential, which is, if I can make this big enough and keep it far enough away, is $1,081,100. And the second piece is the building and construction for commercial, which is $306,900. And I think that's it. And I so move.
Moved by Councillor Walsh, second by Councillor Ludwell. Any discussions? Call for the question. All in favour? Carries.
Aye. Thank you very much,
right.
Madam Chair.
Next on the agenda, we're going to go back to the regular agenda, which is corporate services. Councillor Ludwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item on our agenda this evening is a tax deferral for a low-income earner within the city. You'll see there the information on the particular account is included in your kit for information. And, of course, the recommended deferral is in accordance with Council's policy for low-income earners, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ludwell, second by, who's the seconder now? Because I'm Dave, all right, second by Councillor Baker. Any discussions? Question, all in favour, motion carries.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our next item is in relation to the Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce, and of course, as Council is aware, coming up this Friday night, November 20th of 2015, we have the Chamber's Best in Business Awards coming up, and basically what's being discussed here now is that there's a $2,500 sponsorship of this particular event that is being recommended by our committee. This is very much consistent with what has been done in the past by the city in terms of a contribution. Just one note, though, that of course in the past the city-sponsored Community Spirit Award has been included as a separate cost, but in this case we're recommending that it be included with this $2,500 donation, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ludwell, second by Councillor Baker. Any discussions?
Just a comment, Your Worship. This is really presented or wrapped a little bit differently in terms of a marketing scheme, but I think it's exactly the same. In fact, I know it's exactly the same in terms of the amount of money that was funded and supported by the town of Paradise last year. So I just want to make mention of that is consistent with the contributions that have been made by other municipalities. I guess the other municipality is Paradise because it is the Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce. We've also always been a great supporter of this event, and of course this year we're happy to host it in the city of Mount Pearl again. So we're looking forward to that on Friday evening. Thanks very much.
All right, question? All in favour? Carries.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our third item on our agenda this evening is our list of invoices for approval. You'll see them numbered in your kit, items 1 through 17. Just a note of a couple of the larger items there. Of course, you'll note our share for the City of Mount Pearl paid to the St. John's Regional Fire Department for November. You'll note that amount of $402,074.33. As well, you'll note a couple of the progress payments that were made to Dexter Construction for some of the road work that we've done on Pumphrey and Princeton to upgrade those streets. Those are some of the larger amounts. The 17 invoices total up to $1,092,390.14, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ludwell, second by Councillor Aker. Any discussions? Question? Call for the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Carries.
And our final item this evening...
Sorry, I'm abstaining from it because number 7, my husband works for the company, EC Boone, so I am abstaining from number 7. Just almost missed that. Sorry about that.
No doubt.
Go ahead.
All right, our last item in our report this evening, Your Worship, is of course related to the Municipal Assessment Agency and their annual report, which has now been received for 2014 and 2015. Of course, Council and residents alike are all aware that the latest version of the municipal assessments for all of the various properties here in the city, and I guess really in the region for all those communities that are served by the Municipal Assessment Agency, they've all been received. There's been a lot of talk about them, certainly, but at this point what we're doing is we're just letting people know that we have indeed received a copy of the annual report for the Municipal Assessment Agency. The report is available on their website at www.mma.ca, or of course you can obtain a copy of the report upon request at the Director of Corporate Services office right here in the city of Mount Pearl. So that's just for the information of Council and the public.
Thank you very much. And okay,
with the Municipal Assessment Agency, we all know that the assessments just came out and some people had great concerns with theirs, and there was a cutoff date for appealing, and I believe that was probably the 4th of this month, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know if anybody can answer this question or not, but I'm wondering, is there a timeline on when residents can expect to hear back from the Municipal Assessment Agency on their appeal? Because I know that they've been inundated. I understand. So,
Director.
There's not necessarily a timeline of when they will hear back. The deadline for appeal is actually 30 days from the date of the assessment that you'd receive. There's also a review process that people can request, which is not a formal appeal. But so some people have gone that route, and I think from the municipal assessment standpoint, they're trying to get those as quickly as possible. The most recent conversation I had with them is that they are committing to a specific timeline, but it is going to be as quickly as possible. The appeal will be, I guess, the appeals will be accumulated, and then there'll be hearings held for the appeals. That'll, not sure exactly when they'll be held, but now in terms of hearing back from municipal assessment agency, so the process is once everything is received, they'll try and touch base with the property owner and arrange to come out and do a site visit and go through everything in terms of what's in the property and things like that before they ever go to a hearing.
Councillor Walsh would like to speak as well.
Well, yeah, just a couple of things. My understanding, and if you are actually appealing the assessment and requesting another assessment be undertaken, there are two different stages to what I understood the process to be. The first was a review. And the review looked at the property, made sure that it had all of the information, that everything was considered, that due process was carried out, and that doesn't include another property visit or anything of that nature. And if that's okay, they'll send back the information and say, yeah, we reviewed your property, we looked at the information that was there, and everything seems to be in order. And then if someone asks for an additional visit, that would be, my understanding, that would constitute the actual appeal. The other thing that I want to add before you answer is simply some of the confusion related to the values, and of course there was a session on this in Gander when we were out to the municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador. It was quite a heated session because a lot of municipal leaders were kind of upset because they were getting calls from residents about the values associated with the properties. And that's understandable because the assessed values are actually the values that were applied as of January 1, 2014. And we all know that in January 1, 2014, the values of properties were probably appreciably higher than some of the values might be today because of some of the market conditions, how they've changed, how the general commodities market, real estate, employment opportunities, the general economy, in other words, the sand has shifted somewhat, and it resulted in a little bit of a drop in some of the appraised values of their homes. So people are being asked to pay taxes on property values that are a couple of years old, or pretty much a couple of years old. And that, of course, works sometimes the other way. Sometimes you may be assessed on properties and your property is actually considerably higher in value than what you're paying at the particular date in question. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But right now it's not working in the favor of residents, and that's why some residents feel, I can't get for my property right now what my property is appraised at. And that wasn't the issue. The issue was that on January 1, 2014, here was the value that was assigned to your property, and that's what you're going to be taxed on for this next cycle. That's the way it works.
Director Silva.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually almost 2 years between current time and when the base date for the assessments were. So, in actual fact, last time is exactly what you were talking about. Last time, there would have been an assessment or a reassessment. There would have been an increase in that period of time, so houses would have appreciated further. To speak to the other point on the review, I spoke to MAA within the last couple of weeks. Generally speaking, depending on when they're sort of asked to do a file review, they will sometimes just do a desktop file review, but there are times as well on the review where they will visit the property, even though it's not a full-fledged appeal, depending on the information that comes forward. The one thing, though, to keep in mind for residents, though, is and again, it's probably past the 30 days now anyway, but if you do make the decision to have a file review done, you still only have 30 days from the date of the assessment to make that appeal. If that review is not completed within the 30 days, that window does not reset. So oftentimes people do have to make a decision as to whether they're going to go for a file review or an appeal at that time. If the review is done very quickly and they're able to get it done within that 30-day window, then obviously you would still have time to appeal. The other thing to keep in mind would be if the review resulted in a reassessment, then the 30 days would reset. So it would be the 30 days from the date of that assessment.
okay, so the difference between a review and an appeal, then, if I may, is one comes at a cost and one is free. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think the cost is $25
$25.
on
That's
an
right.
appeal. And like I say, both of them can result in a site visit, depending on the circumstances. They start with doing a desktop review of your file and discuss that with the taxpayer. And basically, if that's sufficient and the taxpayer is satisfied at that point, I guess that's as far as it goes. If there's further questions on what's contained in the property and what the assessment was based on, then the Municipal Assessment Agency will actually send somebody out, even on It is possible.
All right, I guess that's it for discussions, but the end of to say, even if the appeal is gone, if somebody was away on vacation, came back and found an assessment in their mailbox, they can go and have reviewed the property at any time if they feel that the assessment is not correct. So just a note on that. All right, next we're moving off. I guess we got a tag team. Councillor Tessier is going to take over infrastructure and public works.
All right, we've got some requests for change orders. The first one is for St. David's Park redevelopment. We've had to make some changes in the Bubbler Fountain and Cenotaph areas. Some of those changes include mechanical, electrical, landscape architecture, and civil engineering fees for the Bubbler Fountain and some mechanical engineering. That's coming in at a cost of $48,002.40. This is going to be a really beautiful focal point of this park when it's completed, and I move that this is accepted.
Moved by Councillor Tessier, second by Councillor Aker. Any discussions? Call for the question. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried.
Cannot wait for that to be done. It's going to be such a beautiful area, especially after we just celebrated Remembrance Day. It'll be beautiful to have it up there. The next is a request for a change order for the gymnastics facility. There's two changes. They want to delete the rubberized flooring and add ceiling to the gymnasium slab, and the deletion of the humidification system. These are actually credits, so that's pretty exciting.
Well, aren't you very good?
I know. Doesn't happen very often. In the order of $77,872.10, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Tessier, second by Councillor Aker. Any discussions? Call for the question. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried.
The next has to do with... Sorry? No. The next has to do with our stormwater management project. We've had to make some adjustments to the actual number of homes that were identified. We had 50 identified in 2014, a total of 59 houses, it turns out, had some pumps disconnected from the sanitary sewer, and that comes in at a cost of $257,905.54. And I so move.
Moved by Councillor Tessier, second by Councillor Aker. Any discussion? Call the question. Motion.
And
All
we
in
haven't...
favour?
Oh, sorry, Your Worship. Sorry. Next, we have a request for change order for approval for Smallwood Drive sidewalks. We wanted to install new sidewalks along Old Placentia Road between Nelder Drive and the new gymnastics facility, and of course that'll make it much safer for our young athletes to access that facility. And my iPad is picking now to act up. That comes in at a total of $77,135.50, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Tessier, second by Councillor Aker. Any discussion? We call for the question. All in favour?
Aye.
And finally, the Summit Center balcony rail. Boy, I tell you, this iPad. My iPad is getting old. It's letting me know. We have a proposal to assess the existing second-floor balcony rail at the Summit Center. That was requested from SNC Lavalin. This is a study. It's going to include the assessment, the design, tendering, and contract administration for the implementation of any recommendations that they make. This is coming in at a proposed cost of $7,910. That includes HST. Engineering Services has reviewed the proposal and also recommends approval, so do we.
Moved by Councillor Tessier, second by Councillor Aker. Any discussion? Call for the question. All in favour? Moved. Carried.
Tagging out.
Now our tag team is
Thank you,
jumping
Councillor Tessier, and Your Worship. Thank you very much. 6 updates here today, folks, on projects. Pumphrey Avenue, Princeton Avenue, we're about 90% complete. We should see that finished up now next week. All we are doing over there is concrete, curb, gutter, the basic full meal deal related to the road surface. Municipal Avenue Phase 1, work is continuing until about December of 2015, and then we'll carry it over to the spring of 2016. Smallwood Drive sidewalks are nearly complete. It should be done on November 30th. I think we've got I'll call it the north side of the road is done, and they're working their way down the south side, and Unless we get 30 centimeters of snow like Gander, I guess that project will be finished in the next few days. And of course, our long-term project, which is the Capital Asset Management Project with Opus and SNC, continues. The engineering department is working on that, and of course, the completion date is a little bit far out, but they are working at it in earnest. And of course, committee and council, committee of the whole, is monitoring all efforts. The gymnastic facility, the Councillor Tessier talked about giving back some money. The steel structure is up. It's about 15% complete, and we're on track to have it finished on time and within budget by May of 2016. So we look forward to that facility opening up at that time. And Team Gushu Phase 2, I could vault for joy. Team Gushu Phase 2 is 30% complete. The goal this year is to get the base course of the asphalt down. That'll make the area down there serviceable from a snow clearing point of view. It'll make it better accessible from a user point of view. And then before, the more intensive uses begin with baseball and soccer and the like next spring, we should be able to finish it up. So approximate completion date, because I can never get too much more definite than that of the department, but approximately spring of 16. But I'm hoping it'll be April, Mr. Antle. Yeah. Now we have an update that we have had, as you all know, on November 10th. We had a major water and sewer disruption here in the city. We had two events happen within moments of each other. One is we had, and it was related to a construction project on Municipal Avenue, so we had a big water leak down there, and around the same time or shortly thereafter we had another major water leak on a 12-inch line. Director Antle has shown us pictures. You know Director Antle and pipes, right? Yeah, he's taken the section back to the depot, and it's split right up the middle. It's amazing the force that was put on that pipe when it blew. So work started, I think, around the 10 o'clock or so, maybe a little bit earlier on November 10th. Kudos to all the city staff who helped from the time. I mean, you got to investigate these, you got to isolate the valves. I'm starting to learn your language a little bit, Director Antle. And once the valves were isolated, they could restore the water pressure to the city. And then it took pretty much another 24 hours to bring the project to bear. In the middle of doing the repair, we had the additional challenge. I think we had another leak that was in that line that sprang up, right? So that basically required active management. The crews worked tirelessly throughout the night and into the next day. And I guess we caught a little bit of a break in that November 11th was the next day, and it was sunny, so the traffic levels weren't quite as high, and we had good weather to facilitate the repair. And so what we've got is a repair on the go now this week. We're going to try to get, before the winter sets in, get the asphalt restored. The running water essentially did more than just damage the pipe. It also washed away some of the sediment, or some of the, I guess, the material that supports the asphalt. So there's a major dig on the go, and we appreciate the patience of residents. But the intersection at Ruth, at Park, and Commonwealth basically is not quite shut down, but I'd estimate to say it's about half shut down now until next Friday. So if you're coming from Park Avenue headed to Ruth Avenue, essentially you can go straight onto Ruth and turn right onto Commonwealth. If you're coming down Mount Carson, your only option will be to turn right, basically to go up Ruth Avenue. Or left on Park, right? But you can't go straight because you will be walking right into the big hole that we're fixing. You can go up Glendale too. And if you're coming down towards Topsail Road on Commonwealth, basically you can go straight through, turn right on Park, but you're not getting onto Ruth Avenue. And what did I miss? Ruth Avenue. You're coming through there. You can turn left or go straight. So
Slow going.
yeah. No, I got my notification. I don't know about the rest of you last night from the city, and I think that worked really well. I know our notification system.
Notified about 6 ways.
6 ways? Well, when you get your first notification, if you tell the system, if you press 1, then you can shut them down. But even though we use that system primarily for emergencies, it's called our alert system, I think something of major interest there was nice to notify the residents, and they really appreciate the communication. So kudos to all staff in that regard. And also, I'd like to read a letter, because the UTM crew, which is our utility maintenance crew, went above and beyond the call of duty for that 24 hours from November 10th all the way through November 11th. They worked through a holiday. They worked practically 24 hours. I'm sure all the safety issues were diligently dealt with. And this goes out to water and sewer, yeah. This goes out not just to the supervisors, but as well all of the employees within the division. and not just the people who directly worked on the pipe, because there's always people, even our MEOs, I'm sure, were there to support traffic flow and the like, right? But let me read a letter that went out from the director's office with support of the CAO to the UTM division supervisors and employees. And on behalf of City Council and the residents and businesses of the city, please accept our appreciation of your efforts and attention to restore water as quickly as possible after not one but two significant water breaks. Your response and cooperation and working together shows how we truly work as a team in handling situations that require expertise and dedication. I also am especially proud of the Infrastructure and Public Works Department. This response involves staff from across our department. Our ability to respond quickly and effectively, particularly during these difficult and challenging circumstances, reinforces our reputation as a city that reflects our vision of a progressive, independent city with a strong sense of home. And I know I've repeated this in the letter much in my discussion here, my comments, but it was well worth it, and I hope that you would pass on council that we really, really appreciate what was done that day. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aker and Councillor Director Antle. Thank you very much for doing that on behalf of Council, on behalf of the residents of the city, because it's always good when we have our staff working around the clock, 24 hours a day. Sometimes people don't realise the dedication and the time they take away from their family, especially on a holiday. And the only comment I have regarding the emergency that night on the 10th was, I guess everybody received a large number of calls, and myself and Director Antle had a conversation about it just before the meeting today. And we have an emergency number, an after-hours number, and it's ran by a call centre. It's ran by Tellink, and we're going to bring it back to the committee and take a look at it again, because when you only got one number, even if we had to bring staff in, it was 9, 10 o'clock at night trying to get staff to come in to answer the phone, the call centre would have fielded most of the calls, and they probably didn't have enough staff on, not expecting an emergency that night. So we're going to review that and look, and maybe we could offer some kind of assistance to them when we have an emergency like this again, so that they could look after it, because a lot of people, there was a lot of messages. I know I've received a number of phone calls. There was a lot of messages up on Facebook and on Twitter, and they had sometimes we just don't realise the amount of calls are coming in because people couldn't reach us, and they don't know it's a water main break. They just don't know what's happening. They know they have no water, and they don't know what's going on. So we are going to review that system, just to let the public know. All right, we're going to move on to new business, and I'm going to go to Councillor Walsh.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I don't have anything new, but I do know that there is an additional gentleman in the gallery who wasn't there when I did the first report. I'm not sure if the interest was related to the Glendale Avenue development, but I do want to say that we did present that information and provided the report on the first part of the meeting agenda. So if there's something that you have any questions on, I'll be happy to talk to you personally following the meeting. I'm not sure what the interest is at all, but I just wanted to say that. And other than that, I have no other business.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Tessia.
Yes, I just want to echo the sentiments from Councillor Aker as co-chair of Public Works as well. We as council know that we were getting emails all night long. And it's one thing to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and read an email, but you know that somebody's typing that email, and the person who's typing that email is probably on site or getting information from people who are on site as well. So to say that we're appreciative of the hard work of everybody who is continuing still to work on those water main breaks is an understatement. We know it's an inconvenience to lose water. Everybody knows it's an inconvenience to lose your water. But this clearly was something unforeseen, and we were really incredibly appreciative of everybody's efforts. At the beginning of our meeting, Councillor Aker talked about a safety message yielding to emergency vehicles that are stopped, providing assistance to the public. Yet again, I feel the need to highlight another element of that. You have to yield, we all have to yield to emergency vehicles that are approaching us or that are coming at us in traffic somewhere. Ambulances, police cars, anything like that. I'm seeing it yet again, and I know that last summer I brought it forward publicly when I was painting one of those electrical boxes on the corner of Ruth and Commonwealth, I was astounded at the number of vehicles that don't yield to emergency responders. And I'm seeing it again. And I've seen at least 2 occasions of it in the last couple of weeks, and it's really unfortunate to see it happen. And when you talk to first responders, they're not surprised by it. And that's an unfortunate thing, because that's not something anybody should ever have to get used to. So again, it's a reminder to the public, if something's coming at you with lights and sirens, where they're going is far more important than where you're going. So it's imperative that we remember that we have to yield to our emergency responders who are approaching us from any direction. And that's all for me tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Tessier. Councillor Aker.
Yeah, just one thing, Your Worship. On November 11th, of course, we attended the Remembrance Day ceremonies at Park Place, perhaps the last one at that cenotaph. There will be a cenotaph next year, but it'll be relocated. I wanted to say congratulations to the Legion. I think they did a bang-up job. So did the Community Services Department in supporting it. It was a great turnout and a lovely day. And, you know, it was a great day to honor our veterans, because basically, as you can see from the events in France, you can never take for granted how peaceful your life is. And you know that before us, there was others that fought on our behalf to make our life so good. So anyway, congratulations to the Legion.
Well said, Councillor Aker. Councillor Ludlow.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I think Councillor Aker is spot on when he talks about the Remembrance Day ceremony. I think it was probably the largest crowd that we ever saw down there, and I guess sort of fitting that, you know, it was, because we hope, of course, it'll be the last one of those ceremonies that we have at that, and our next one will be at our brand new park at St. David's. I do have a couple of items, Your Worship, if you'll indulge me for a moment. First of all, I just want to highlight a great project that is going to be ongoing very soon within the City of Mount Pearl. And of course, the City is once again this year going to be partnering with the Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Association, and we're going to be doing their 4th annual food drive, and that's going to be, of course, to assist the two food banks that serve the residents of our fair city. They have a very ambitious goal this year, and that's to surpass last year's amount of 19,000 food items that were collected. That was a great day last year, and certainly they're hoping to surpass that this year. Of course, their players, their parents, coaches, and even some of our councillors are volunteering time to make this happen. And we want to say thank you to Coleman's, Dominion, and Sobeys for providing tables at the entrances to their supermarkets so that the Mount Pearl minor hockey players can be there to collect food donations at the supermarkets themselves. Mount Pearl Senior High School is once again committed to providing assistance for the main headquarters, I guess in the cafeteria there. That's where the group will be gathering as they go out and they come back in. And certainly this is a great opportunity for all of our young hockey players to show how they understand the values that the game has shown them. So just want to highlight to residents that on November 28th, that food drive is going to be happening. So please, when the players approach your door, I'd ask the public to be very generous when that happens. The other item I just want to make mention of, and I've received communication from a couple of residents, and I just want to sort of mention it in public because I want to make sure they know that we're going to review it. And it's related to the intersection of 1st Street and St. Andrews Avenue. I know that when I was campaigning during the last municipal election, I did receive some words, I guess, from some of the residents over in that area that they had some safety concerns with that intersection. And more recently, I've had an email from a resident who had a fairly serious accident, I'm told, at that particular intersection. So she has some suggestions as to how safety could be improved over there. And perhaps at other intersections in the area. So I just want to put it on record publicly to let those residents know that we're going to look into it. And, of course, I'd ask the committee to look into it. But, of course, that's my own committee, I think. So we'll certainly review that and refer that to myself.
Refer that back to yourself.
There you go.
Was that related to the netting over there? Was that because I know we had a number of concerns with the netting for the tennis complex? That's St. Andrews. Is on the other side.
Up a bit further at 1st Street and St. Andrews.
Well,
so
I'm sure you will bring it back to your committee.
Absolutely. Certainly will.
All right. I do have a few items that hasn't been mentioned, and as I would like to pass along my sympathy to Michelle Anstey Norman. Michelle was one of my neighbours for many years, and her father was Reg Anstey, and Michelle passed away just a week or so ago, and I want to pass along my sympathies to Reg and Betsy and to their family. And just yesterday morning, another neighbour of mine, Gloria Smallwood, passed away. Her son, Kent Smallwood, worked here with the city for a number of years up in our depot, and Gloria has been a resident of Mount Pearl for almost 50 years, and wanted to pass along my sympathy to the family. And wanted to mention the First United Church is going to be hosting and having a concert with the Ennis Sisters, and it's taking place on December the 19th. And if anybody would like to buy tickets, they certainly would like for you to come out and support them. And they asked me to mention it. And of course, when we have our next meeting, our provincial election will be over. And so we're going to have a new government in place on December the 1st. So that's when our next council meeting is going to take place. And certainly have been honoured to be here this evening to chair the meeting. It's the second time actually that I've chaired a public council meeting, and certainly was delighted to fill in for one of my colleagues and that. And now I would like to call for an adjournment. And you're always moving that, so. Call by Councillor Ludwell. So moved. Adjourned.